What's up, guys? It is Coach Kally V, and this is the Kally V podcast. And here's a first. I have a Canadian on the podcast. I'm super excited. If you guys are on Instagram and you're a softball fan, if you're not following Training Foundations, you need to follow them. They specialize in a lot of things, and I don't want to let the rabbit out of the hat because this is why I have this guy on the show, Fystro, out of Canada. Grand announcement. You are the first of many.
Thanks. Awesome. Thanks for that. Appreciate it. Yeah, I didn't know that. So it's, surprising myself. Thanks.
Heavy baton to carry.
Yeah.
But yeah, so just real quick, little background. He is heavy in the baseball world. He specializes in a lot of softball. So this is a softball podcast, but it means that I'm married to a baseball coach and I'm raising baseball players. Kind of a big deal to me. So AJ, I'm going to let you take it away. And I always like to start out with your origin story. Like, yes, we can go to your website and we can see your background, all the baseball stuff, but like, when did you start playing baseball? How did you know you wanted to continue to play baseball? And just those little pivoting moments in your life.
Yeah, thanks, Kelly. Like I said, thanks for having me. I appreciate having this opportunity just to speak here with you and just a little bit about what's going on with Training Foundation, everything. My background, like you said, it's with baseball. I don't even have any girls. I've got two boys myself, just in baseball as well. So that's, like I said, fast forward here a little bit later, we'll get into sort of how softball took things over. But, with my background, grew up in a really small town, probably of only like 10,000 people in Alberta, Canada. Was very fortunate to have my father, who was big into baseball back in the 50s, the 60s, the 70s. He went on to sort of run associations, was the head of, I guess, what we call our provinces, you guys call your states. He was the president of our provincial organization at the time. And through him, obviously being the president of that organization, got to know a lot of probably the most known, sort of recognized baseball individuals in our province. Guys that had played, back in the 60s and the 70s had played college baseball, guys that had played at Pepperdine in the 70s, and these are Canadian guys, and I was fortunate to have these guys back here in Alberta and sort of learn from them. And, then we sort of, as a small town, I was fortunate, I guess you could say. My dad got transferred and got moved to sort of a bigger city near just outside of Edmonton, Alberta. And from there, that's when the passion sort of started, where it's sort of obviously Canada, we got to talk about hockey, so you got to make that trend. You got to try to that choice, right? What's the sport? Is it hockey or is it something else? And for me, and my two brothers as well, two older brothers, for us, we weren't big into putting the skates on. We didn't have a passion for it, but baseball, we all sort of took that feeling for and took look, that was something that we wanted to continue doing because of his passion for the game of baseball. And through that, so, just through to my youth days, just getting to play the game, and we have some very inspirational coaches. And with those sort of people, those are the people why I sort of do what I do today, because they gave me a lot of their life after they were done playing. And so I've really just taken that on myself to do so. And then I guess you fast forward after my youth days sort of playing in Alberta, I was fortunate to go on to Merced Junior College in California and play. I redshirted my first year, played 2 years. Had some offers to maybe go on, but I was very fortunate under a great coaching staff there to be given the opportunity to stay on as an assistant coach, even when I was only 20 years old, coaching with kids that guys that I had played with the year before. So it was a sort of a weird one, but, given the opportunity just to coach at a junior college, and sort of that's what grew the passion. And from there, just continued my coaching. I was given an opportunity to go to Italy, did some coaching in Italy for a little bit. Came back to Canada, was given an opportunity to coach what we call sort of a club sport. Baseball's not, it wasn't at the time. It's not as big as the NCAA, the Division I's, but we do still have sort of what we call club baseball program here, and it's university baseball, college baseball. Given an opportunity to coach a team there. Here in Okotoks, Alberta is where I reside now. Given an opportunity to coach in their program. They have a high school academy here in Okotoks. As small as Okotoks is, about 30,000. We have one of the biggest high school academies and well-known high school academies in all of Canada. And there's also a summer collegiate team, which brings in NCAA players, Division II, Division III, NAI. Kids come from all over the world to play here in our college program as well in the summer. It's like, I think they've been ranked number 3 or 4 for attendance in all of like North America. So yeah, so wow. If people hear this, like I said, Okotoks is on the map, actually, is you maybe haven't heard of it, but on the baseball side. So I've been given the opportunity to provide some, to be able to continue my coaching development in some pretty high level organizations. With that said, then all of a sudden you have kids. You know, me and my wife, we have two little boys, and then all of a sudden it's deciding, are you going to work 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, you know, helping kids develop, or are you going to start to maybe go back to square one and help your own kids develop, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's where sort of I stopped, sort of on my coaching side on the higher level. And then I just sort of started giving back at the youth level. And from there, obviously had some time to you know, tinker around to some other things. Always had a passion in the strength and conditioning side of things, and that's where Training Foundation evolved. My father, who unfortunately passed away about 5 years from cancer, was sort of the inspiration behind Training Foundation. The logo itself, the C, you don't realize there's a C and a K, which created home
Oh,
plate. His initials are actually Clinton Kenneth. And I was just drawing that on a piece of paper. And when the C and the K came together and formed a home plate, the C represents cancer, the K strikeout. Like there's just so many sort of, you know, stories
yeah.
that are behind it. But, you know, and sort of like I said, always saw the skill development side of things, but really knew that, you know, just too much at times, and kids needed to get in the gym, worry about strength and conditioning. And that's where sort of that passion came from. And then from there started the business. And then when I sort of took on my first small sort of, I guess you could say, small building, first time I had a roof over my head, small lease, that was February 2020. And guess what happened March 2020? The good old C word, COVID hit. So 1 month into my business opening, I
Whew.
had to shut down. Everything shut down. As hard as it's been on a lot of people, and to this day, and God bless all those people that have suffered through it, I look back on my business and it's probably one of the best things that happened, because it made me step back and really look at what I was doing with my business. Just one month in, we all have these dreams and aspirations. I'm going to start this business. Here's how I'm going to run it. And then it's like, hold on a sec. And
Mhm.
COVID provided me that opportunity to say, look, some things that you thought were going to work have not worked in the first month. You need to focus maybe a little bit on other things. And then really what I did is, you know, those old words, the pivots, the adapts, and those are the things that I sort of did within the time period of COVID. Shifted my business to online, obviously, like any trainer around the world sort of
Mhm.
was going online with things. And really just through that, as much as I wanted when I started the business to say that I was going to work with just youth, you know, you are a strength condition place, your building's empty during the day, you got to have adults in there. I was putting maybe a little bit too much focus on that. The big box gyms, they're going to take those people, they're going to have those memberships, but I had to regain my focus and just go back to youth athletes. And that's why I started the business. And that's what I wanted to really focus on. So through that, been very fortunate to work with a lot of, you know, high school athletes, youth athletes, baseball, softball, obviously hockey players we work with as well, figure skaters, swimmers, across the board, just athletes of everything. So, and then that's sort of how, sort of, I guess you could say, the softball sort of, you know, to everything sort of snowballed into.
That's good. That's a great story. I know COVID taught me what I was capable of doing too as an instructor. I was like, oh, I can do online.
Yeah,
So yeah, I think everybody kind of got out of their comfort zone and they didn't even know they were in a comfort zone. That was
yeah,
the weird thing.
for sure.
So one of the things you talked about going back to the youth level and strength and conditioning. So I'm going to speak as a mother of an athlete who he's always my oldest son. He's always looked older than he is. So like when he was 10, he looked like he was 13, 13 looked like he was 16. And I think he was always wanting to please his team and his coach. And when they asked him to do things, he would do things, but his muscles were not ready yet to do them because they weren't age appropriate. So lo and behold, his senior year, he had always had this knot in his shoulder, in his scap. And my husband, being a baseball guy, was like, what, you know, it's been there. Like, what if it's a tumor? Like, and I'm like, it's not, it's muscle. So what they did is they went in, dry needled, injected straight lidocaine into it to
Oh,
get it
wow.
to bust up. But I have this crazy theory that because he looked bigger, looked like he'd hang with the gang, he was actually doing more damage than what his body was ready to do. Is that a crazy theory to think of a parent who has a kid who looks older, but their body actually isn't?
No, and I really think, you know what, you could just even say it's for any youth in general, right? Like the amount, the demand on their bodies these days and what we're asking with the travel balls and just,
Yes.
and again, I resort back to here being in Canada with the hockey and like now they're going their hockey season during the winter, then they're going into spring hockey, then they're going into summer hockey, and then they're going right back in their season. It's one of these things where the body needs number one, time to rest.
Hmm.
It needs time to, we always talk about the multi-sport athlete, you know what, adapting and having other skill sets so that the body can, focus on sort of just different movement patterns, different planes of motion. But really, when it all comes down to it, is just the demands of the sport are so just individualized. With throwing, obviously, you're using that shoulder so
Right.
much. And if you're number one, if you're not building up those areas that are going to, help you throw faster, be stronger, and do those things, then I really think, like you said, we're trying to say to these kids, look, I want you to do all this within the sport, but we're not giving them that time away to number one, get that rest, or also build up sort of that muscles, those bigger muscles, and sort of just the stabilizing muscles, I guess you could
Hmm.
say, in the throwing aspect side of things. But yeah, like you said, it's really coming around just youth level. And I made a post about this the other day. Like a lot of the athletes that we've worked with recently, kids that have maybe made a team that like they weren't on the map, or a coach just comes to me and says, "Oh my God, like what did you do with this kid?" And all I basically am saying is, I haven't really done anything, but what's happened is that kid just became consistent in the gym, and what they've done is they've become more physical. And I just like to say they're more physical. Kids that work out these days, they might not be the biggest. They don't, they're going to be that shorter stature. They're not going to be that size, that frame that you might want. But if they're more physical than some of the kids their age, like the 13s, the 14, 15-year olds, just that's going to help their process along the way. I like to say it all the time. You might not be the best when you're 11, 12, 13, and that's fine. But we always try to say, let's speed that process up a little bit by getting you introduced to the weight room, proper movement patterns, so that we're building those proper muscle groups, so that when all of a sudden you hit those growth spurts, now all of a sudden your body is ready for it because you've taken care of those needs in the gym and building that strength.
I love that. Something I get asked a lot is, when would you recommend my daughter to start lifting weights? And I always say, don't start with the weights, start with the form. Like band work is great. The sandbars, like you can get a 5 pound sandbar, but you can put that on her shoulders, have her start doing squats and stuff. But I really exemplify it's the form. Once
Yeah,
her
we
form is down.
Yeah, I have a saying that we use with a lot of our kids, and especially our young kids, because they come in the gym and they know what they want to do. They want to lift the 30s and the 40s because that's the
Mhm.
fancy stuff. But I say we have a process here, and part of that process is mastering movements. We need to be able to master movements before
Exactly.
we can even worry about it. Otherwise, all we're doing is we're setting ourselves up for injury. As good as the gym can be, it can also be, if you're not, if you're not educated in the gym, it can be something it is harmful, 100%. And I get it. People saying, when's the age? When should I do this? I don't think there's a too early. I think it's just about being educated about
Right.
what's you should be doing that. And like I said, that comes back to mastering movements. That's using bands. That's using those light 3 pound dumbbells to do a squat with. It's just adding a little bit of resistance on the muscles and the joints just to help build them and stabilize. But yeah, like I said, we get back to just mastering movements and we really focus on that.
I love that. I look at it as also injury prevention.
Yeah.
I know in my line of work, also coaching for like over 2.5 decades, there's a heightened chance of injuries anywhere from that 10 to 13-year-old gap because so many girls are going through growth spurts. And I find that the girls that are more long boned in stature, they're more prone to injury
Yeah.
and they're less likely to want to work out. It's really weird.
Yeah.
And we've experienced with our own daughter. We've had her going probably since she was about 10. And we started with the movement, started with the bands. And my husband, he's also a PE and health and strength training teacher as
Yes.
well.
Yes.
He wanted to make sure that she's moving correctly as well. But this little girl has she's 13 now, and she she's literally watched her friends around her go through growth spurts, not be able to hit the ball, not be able to throw a strike, get injured off of silly willy movements. And I really feel strongly, and just listening to you, that by having her getting started and mastering the movement and then adding the weight, it's actually helped prevent her from an injury.
Yeah, for sure. And that's we are seeing that a lot of kids that do come to the gym, like their injury, the injury, like you said, the injury prevention is the huge aspect of it. It's just trying to minimize, and especially we work with a lot of, hockey players, and it's physical. It's a physical sport. There's contact and stuff, and and there's a lot of a lot of movements in there within the knees, and and everything. And it's really about just taking those kids through those range of motions. That's the biggest things that they're going to they're going to be as part of their sport. And just building up those movement patterns and strengthening them in those range of motion and those movement patterns, so that they're prepared for that when it comes time. And that's what I think it is. Just a lot of kids aren't prepared for the movements that they're going to be taking place within their sport. So we're going to ask a kid to throw so much, but we're not going to do anything with their shoulders at all, and just all of a sudden hope one day they're gonna, it's just gonna muscles gonna build there. Like that's backwards, right? Why don't we start on the other end? Why don't we start working through movements, building a little small muscles, and then slowly build that sort of, and that's where the arm strength comes from. And like I said, it's sort of just a full circle moment when you go back to building in the strength and conditioning first, and then the skill development second. But again, I think a lot of it's backwards these days.
Yeah. Well, I had a listener ask a question, and I felt like this would be a really good time to ask it. How do you fit multi-sports into a club sport athlete? Like, I feel like hockey up there is kind of like baseball and softball here in the Phoenix area. Like, we literally play it all year round, right? But my middle son, his best friend plays hockey. He's actually at a hockey school out of state right now. He's hopefully going to go somewhere. Yeah. But how do you fit that in? Like, I love it as a coach. I love my kids to have other sports in their life because, number one, proprioception is injury prevention, like all that jazz. So how can you, as a parent that's listening to this, how can you offer advice to them?
I think it's just as simple as getting them out, maybe doing things as a family. It's even just maybe it's, kicking a soccer ball around, putting them in a youth league that you can maybe find that would fit their schedule one day a week. And it sort of takes me to this whole thing where they say multi-sport athlete. And it's funny because I shake my head at the people that say, I'm all for multi-sport athletes and my kid's going to be great at both of these. And then all of a sudden it's hockey season and hockey season stops and they're still doing summer hockey. They're still doing spring hockey and they're going to do baseball. But in reality, what they're not doing is they're not actually taking that downtime just to allow the body to rest from those demands that certain sport is. Yes, we're still going to maybe go in the gym and build up the strength. So like, it's really, I get it. There's a balance to try to find that balance of how to do the both of them. But for me, it's really just trying to, like I said, trying to find a recreational league, something that's just a drop in that they can maybe do once a week, so that they can be doing another sport in that aspect. It's tough because the demands of the highest level these days at such a young age, these kids are being expected to be at practice 3 days a week and then games 2 or 3 days a week. And it's 5, 6 days a week and they need a rest day. So when is their time, right? Like it's such a tough, and this is a conversation I do. And it's a question, like you said, and it's not just a question from a couple people. It's a lot of people. It's almost like I want my son to be good. I want my daughter to be good, but I also want them to do other sports. But I need to how do I keep up with the Joneses? Like all these other kids are doing hockey year round. They're doing softball year round. But I'm going to tell my daughter, you don't have to do that. And she's going to miss out on all those reps. So it's really about just trying to find that time where you can still be doing, sport specific movements and things that you're going to utilize within your sport, but also trying to get them away from that sport. So I don't know if I answered it. It is tough. It is tough.
Yeah, you did. I think the biggest thing that people deal with is, number one, they're not trying to take anybody off. So like, when you do look into a rec ball league team or something, you still want to teach your kid the value of a commitment. But I also asked my husband the same question, and he said, as long as you as the parent are upfront with the coach that, whatever league you're dropping in on, hey, my kid is committed to this, but we really want to get her kind of a break to come here and, build friends out here or just be coached by somebody else kind of scenario. And I think being upfront is probably something really to lead with. Yeah. However, if I wanted to beat the system though, wouldn't it make sense just to hire somebody like you? If I wanted my kid to play softball all year round, could I just say, well, she's not necessarily going to play volleyball or basketball, but she's going to go work out with AJ because AJ is going to get her doing all the movement? Is that another way to almost introduce a multi-sport type setting in your kid's life?
Yeah, 100%. It definitely is, just by, introducing that sort of that weight room setting to him, the gym setting, getting a personal trainer or a coach that works. I love the group settings. I don't work a lot of our athletes. We don't work in a one-on-one, one-on-two setting. I always like the small group
Yeah.
aspect. It gives kids, it helps kids just be in a sort of that team setting when they're in the
Mhm.
gym. The camaraderie, that little chit chat that goes on. They see other kids are inspired by each other. They see, I even like to mix age ranges. Like, I'll have an 11-year-old in with a 15, 16-year-old, and
Yep.
just so they can look across the gym and see what that player's doing and that he's
Mhm.
putting his time in or she's putting her time in. And I love that aspect. So finding those opportunities for your son or daughter, away from the sport, is a great opportunity as well. Like you said, you know, everywhere around the world's different. We're fortunate here. I look out the window right now. We got snow coming down right now, and it's like 2 degrees Celsius. So for us, obviously, when there's a change in seasons, there's a change. So there's no softball going on right now. So for us, even though our softball players that play in the summertime, they really only have one other option to play another high level sport, and that's to maybe be playing basketball, volleyball,
Right.
soccer, hockey. So they don't really have a choice to continue on playing softball. But what
Mhm.
they can do is again going in for lessons, making sure to try to find lessons, getting in the gym, and doing those types of things, so that you're still doing your sport specific stuff within the sort of where you live and seasons.
Yeah.
And obviously, we all know there's other states in the U.S. that are dealing with the same weather we are, and everybody around the country is deals with their own sort of nature, sort of.
No, I love that. That's good. I feel like that was very valuable for a parent that's listening. And they ultimately, I think what it comes down to is parents kind of feel FOMO, the fear of missing out. And it's a real thing. And I feel like in the last 5 years, it's just everywhere.
Yeah.
And, my family and I, we made a decision beginning of November to step away from the travel ball team that I was coaching with, my daughter was playing on. And it was something that we needed to do as a family, you know? And I see so many parents getting caught up in dotting the I's and crossing the T's, like you said earlier, keeping up with the Joneses.
Yeah.
And I think it was a powerful move for us in our family's life because it taught her, she's 13, super developmental age, like, hey, you can stand up for yourself even though you're not trying to cause any chaos, you know?
Yeah.
So I like both of those answers, like looking into the rec ball type leagues, but also hiring an instructor and doing that kind of work at the same time.
Yeah,
Um,
we did the same thing with our boy as well, 13 years old. And like I said, I've got one of the top high school baseball academies in Canada right here in my own backyard. And people are asking me, wait a sec, you played college baseball? Why isn't your son over there at 30? Why isn't he in the U13 program?
mhm.
You answered the question yourself. He's 13 years old. Like, that is why. Like, let's look at the numbers here, and let's make those numbers more prevalent. The numbers that how many guys are in the MLB, or how many softball players playing Division I softball played on travel teams when they were 11, 12, 13 years old. Like, it's just really become something that's just been, it has blown up over the last three,
It's
four
became
years.
a business,
It
honestly.
has. It 100% has, and I get
Mhm.
both sides of it, but I really hope we can get back to where the other side sort of comes back and that business sort of side of things does go away.
Yeah.
But like I said, we are here where we are, and now it's just trying to, like I said, it's trying to do what you feel best for your child, and that's really what it is. But like you've said, I really feel that I'd rather bring my son down to the weight room and help him out in the gym to get stronger there, rather than having to go to 3, 4 practices a week still during the winter,
Yeah.
when we can build him stronger and build up the arm strength through other avenues.
I love that. So the next question, when I was looking through your website, which I like it, it's pretty dope. I have a website, so I check out
Thanks.
other people's websites. So I noticed at the very end when I looked on the meet the team, I noticed you had the mental side of athleticism and you have somebody on staff who does suicide prevention. That is a really real thing.
Yeah,
And I just, number one, I want to just say thank you for making sure that you have somebody within your facility that is there to help these kids, because as the parents feel FOMO, I think the kids feel FOMO, and they start to identify their sport as who they are.
for sure. No, I
So
appreciate you recognizing that, definitely. And I'm not going to all be up and upfront about it. So everybody that's listed there as a mentor, I call them, on different topics, they're
mhm,
not actually in my facility. My facility, Training Foundation, is a one-man show, and that's me.
I
But
love that.
what through COVID it allowed me to do is collaborate with a ton
Yes.
of amazing individuals, and through this collaboration, what I do is only what I do because of those people. There's so many people I've been able to collaborate with. Even here today, you giving me this opportunity, just collaborating with so many individuals is where I've gone to. And what I wanted to do with my business is provide as many tools as I could for youth athletes to fill their toolbox with as many topics as there are. So again, just wanted to say those people aren't people that are actually in my facility, but like I said, I'm willing to shout out them. So if you want to take a look at our mentors on our site, and if there's anybody there that's somebody that you're looking for in a certain topic, believe me, reach out to them, please, or reach out to me, because those are people that are expertise in their field. Like I said, I'm a one-man show, and I don't believe I can do it all, but there's some people out there that do amazing jobs in their careers. And I'm just fortunate to have collaborated with some great individuals.
Yeah, I think it's brilliant because that's something down here. We always hear through the grapevine of softball, like so and so wanted to kill herself at 10 years of age playing 10U ball. And it's like, for what? Because the coach wasn't playing them. And it's like you always hear those horror stories, but yet you're never in the room. You're never actually there when it happens. So you're like, is this really happening? But I'll never forget, and maybe you remember this. I think it was the first week into COVID, or maybe 2 weeks into COVID, and there was a travel softball player, and I cannot remember her name. I probably blocked it for good reason, because she was close to my daughter's age, and she took her own life. And it was because she was so used to going and going and going, and then COVID closed the doors on everything, and she didn't have anywhere to, I guess, express that energy, have her camaraderie with her teammates, which again is another great reason to have somebody like AJ, you, in your kid's life. Because I know for me, when all the softball teams were shutting down, I was still able to meet with my clients once a week online. So that was huge for the kids, because like we were listening to audiobooks, we were doing like basically like book month things, and just building our minds and stuff, and still working, like doing drills and pitching online and stuff. But I really feel like having that tool, like what you've brought into your just entire idea of what you're doing, is huge. And it's going to lead me right into the next thing. So you and I, literally, we just started talking, what, 2 weeks ago
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
through Instagram.
Yeah.
I started sharing your stuff, told you we had a common friend,
Yeah.
and I was like, I would love to have you on the show. Like this, I have been under a rock, obviously, because I didn't even know you were like doing things in Canada with softball. And then you go ahead and get it. You're like, here, like we're talking, we're
Yeah.
doing
Yeah.
this, and your virtual training is happening next week, correct?
Yeah. No, we're not. January 3rd, it kicks off.
January.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm a month ahead. Like
No, all
November and
good.
December went like this.
All good. Yeah.
Just combined. So tell me about that. Like, I want to hear, like, what are the topics? Now, I just came from the NFCA
Yeah.
convention, which AJ, you need to get your butt to next year. It's in
Yeah, I know.
Dallas.
Yeah.
You need to go.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so enlighten me, please.
Yeah, so that's, like I said, full circle. Basically, COVID hit, and you know what? Looking for other ways just to sort of help out with coaching and sort of do what I could. And very fortunate to have, like I said, run cross paths with some amazing softball players, from Canadian national team players, just to sort of the biggest. The Instagram. As much as we hate social media, man, it's a powerful thing. It can put you in in a connection with a lot of good, amazing
Mhm.
people out there. And really, this has just blown up because of people just being open on their end, just to have these conversations. So what really happened is, COVID hit, and looking for some other avenues to help out. I obviously knew I'd been to the baseball conventions myself, the big national conventions in the US, had an opportunity to go to those. Obviously, just having some families that have daughters, and on the softball side, the youth softball here, in our small town, and just around, there's a lot of people that don't have these avenues. They haven't been given the opportunity to hear from the people that I was able to speak with, and then just sort of just thinking about it, I'm like, how can everything's virtual at that time, and I'm like, how can I all of a sudden maybe just put a virtual, I guess it started as a grassroots clinic year one.
Okay.
We only had like 5 speakers, and some tremendous speakers at that point. But like I said, it just sort of took off, and there was some excitement around it. I think we only had I tried to get it out as much as I could on social media, being a nobody in the softball world. I think I might have only had like 20 coaches. And you know what? Very fortunate to have had Kally V, who's now the assistant coach at Florida State. She's the national team head coach for Team Canada softball. Was able to have had her and a couple other speakers. And one of them sort of said, hey, as long as this can impact one coach, you've done your job. And I just sort of really took that. And as frustrating as it's maybe been to try to have this convention every year and have it be a success, I just try to always resort back to that. If I can make an impact on one coach, then I've done my job. So then here we are, everybody, all of a sudden I start getting messages. Are you doing it year 2? And I'm like, oh my God. Okay, I got to think about doing this. So I get another group, reach out to some people, and just tremendous individuals. So I get a couple more, and then year 3 rolls around. I think COVID's almost sort of done. I'm trying to get my business started. People reach out, are you going to do it again? I'm like, wow, I guess I sort of got to continue. So now here we are, year 4. It's basically evolved into a virtual softball coaches convention is the actual terminology. The event for the next year, I guess you could say 2024, begins early January. So it's January 3rd. We begin the convention, always on a Wednesday night. It's try to sort of after the work hours in the evening. Couple speakers present in the Wednesday evening. The format we've had over the 4 years that seemed to work is, then all of a sudden we have a couple speakers not until Friday evening again, and then a couple on Saturday morning and a couple on Sunday morning, because it just really spreads it out so people feel they still have their rest of the day, or it's in the evening. So with that said, like I said, I've tried to evolve the convention over the last year. What's something new, something exciting for every year that's a little different from the next. This year, what I've decided to do is, we've never done it where we invite players as well. So there's a players pass where players can actually sit in on the coaches and hear them speak. And then we've also got 2 pitching presentations, which I'll get into here in a sec as well. So I'm excited as well. Like last year, for instance, very fortunate to have Morgan Stewart and Amanda Scarborough both speak. These are the types of names that somehow I've been able to have. Amanda Chidester from UMich. I've been able to have some amazing people. Jen Salling, who's Team Canada, just unbelievable speakers. So moving forward, here we are for this year. Again, very, very, and I say this all the time, and I'm trying to get people just to understand this, the throwing side of things. When it comes to throwing, there's no better out there than Austin Wasserman, who does
oh my gosh,
high level throwing.
He was at the NFCA conference. I was just like, okay, everything you just did is everything that you do in hitting, pitching, throwing overhand. Can we all just keep it the same and quit changing it? Yeah. It was amazing.
So I had him 2 years ago, phenomenal. So this year we're very fortunate to have his lead instructor, Sarah O'Brien. So she's going to be speaking. She kicks off the convention on the Wednesday night. Then we're doing an outfield chat with Erica Polidori, who's a Team Canada national team player. And then, like I said, then we go to Friday evening. Friday evening, we have Team USA catcher Kayla Kowalik out of UK. She's going to be speaking on catching. And then we also have Shannon Sale from, Oklahoma U, national champ. She actually, so the way I decide, like I said, the pitching and the hitting are always the 2 big ones that coaches want. And I really, when I started the convention, it was, like I said, it was more of a clinic, and everybody was a little worried. I titled it Grassroots. So, I think there was some worry there. It was really going to be catered to just new coaches, right? So I had to really think, how can I make sure that people realize this isn't just for new coaches? This is for any level coach. So then, like I said, okay, first, it's not going to be a clinic. It's going to be a convention. So we're going to change there.
That's good.
This year, what I decided to do is we're actually going to have two speakers on pitching. So Shannon Sale is going to speak on repeatable mechanics and an elite mindset for pitchers. So for those coaches that maybe are working with a more elite pitcher, or pitchers themselves, players again can attend. She's going to be doing that one. And then very fortunate to have our second time and the good friend of you, Danielle Rubin back and from DR3 Pitching. She's actually going to do a pitching for beginners session. And this is the first I'm announcing of this. I'm breaking the news here to you here on this.
Yay.
Is that this is going to be a free event. So not just for coaches that register for the convention itself will have access to this. This is eventually, once I release this, is going to be free to anybody. So there's going to be a separate access to this part of the convention where anybody can attend, a coach, a young pitcher that wants to know what are the basics I need to be doing with my 10-year-old or 9-year-old, if she wants to pitch. So we're very fortunate to have Danielle back for her second year. She spoke sort of on a higher level a couple years ago. So again, the pitching side of things, we're going to have the two aspects there. Then we're fortunate to have Jamie Wren. Jamie Wren is a former Long Beach State player. She runs Dub Training, and she's going to talk on hitting and slapping, because obviously we got to cover both of those aspects. Yep. And then we've got Drew Walsh, who's out of California and is he runs fast infield development. And he's one of the well-known infield guys out there, runs a lot of programs for youth. And like very fortunate, once again, just a tremendous lineup of speakers. And like I said, kicks off January 3rd. Hot tip here, if coaches don't realize, but like I always try to say, the fee is in Canadian. So 125 Canadian is only about $90 US. You get all of these speakers you get to attend. They're all recorded. I send everybody the recordings after. And then basically you have access to it. I don't touch them. You have access to them to watch those. So if you can't attend one or two sessions, you can obviously watch again. And really just trying to say, look, it's parents, it's coaches. When I started this wasn't just a coach's initiative. This is also parents. Parents need to get on board with their kids. I believe I'm very fortunate to have my baseball background and my son starting to be good because he's had me, and I have some knowledge in the game. And I really think it's about educating parents. Parents have to step up and can't just think they can just hand their daughter off to a qualified coach. But like we all say, it doesn't just happen at practice. It happens. What are you doing in those off hours? What are you doing the extra work? Are you taking them for hitting? Just you as the parent. And as long as you know some basics you can watch for, that's the big thing for me, is not only just educating the coaches, but also the parents as well. And like I said, the Players Pass this year, like I said, the Players Pass is only $75 Canadian. So I don't know, it's maybe something like 55 or 60 US, but just another opportunity. Like I get ecstatic, and I'm like, I love just hearing some of these speakers. Like, I can't believe Shannon Sale is going to speak on advanced pitching. Like, I know nothing about softball pitching. Like, I try to pick.
You're about to. 4
years. Hey, like I get fired up for some of these speakers, because like the stuff that they've like taught and just they put forward for their every session's only about an hour topic, and then about a 15-minute Q&A. And then we take about a 15-minute break and then break into the other speakers. So yeah, we're excited. January 3rd through 7th. So lots of time still to register. And you can find all the information at www.trainingfoundation.ca/clinics.
Okay, I will link that in the show notes for sure. That way people can go there. And I will also put the breakdown of the financial for all the people in the States here.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, I don't think there's anything else. Like, I really wanted to give people a background as to like how you like became the person you are today in the sports world, and also talk about what's getting ready to happen. I think it's great the way you've scheduled it too, because NFCA was just this past week, and the ABCA is going to be happening the first week of January. So it's like there's big things going on that first week. Like, that's really good. So I usually go to the ABCA.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Like I said, it's a collaboration. I commend these speakers. Like, hey, this isn't, like I always say this, and people can say what they want, this isn't a moneymaker for me. All of these coaches are compensated. This isn't me just trying to find the best of the best. That's not these people have put a lot of time into their sport and a lot of work, and they're still doing big things within their sport, and they deserve to get compensated. I pay all of our coaches. I got to somehow try to figure out how I do money transfers every time from Canada to US. Hey, those are logistics I'm willing to do when you can have some of the names that I've been fortunate to have. And like I said, I'm excited about this year's convention as well. So, and again, getting back to just you as well, I appreciate your time and just what social media has been able to do and connect me with certain people like you and individuals like you and everything that you're doing within the game and giving back. So thank you for that.
Well, I want to ask you one thing, one more thing. For the parent that's listening and their first time sports parent, I feel like these are the most moldable parents that either get molded to run on pure ego or molded to run on what can I do for my kid to be the best they can be for where they're at. So as somebody who's been in the world of coaching for a long time, I always like to ask other coaches the same thing. You've been on all aspects of the ball. What do you think defines a qualified coach?
Oh, she's putting me on the spot. Definitely a qualified coach. I really just think it's, and I get it, as busy as the world is these days, and financially and just trying to make by these days, but it's really just becoming invested and taking the time to invest, the couple hours, maybe a week that it is, like, again, something like the convention or just researching, just to try to educate yourself. We have a sort of a saying that started a couple years back with Training Foundation, was prepare for tomorrow. How do we prepare athletes for tomorrow? So we always tell our athletes, what are you doing today that is preparing yourself for tomorrow? And I think the same can go to on a coaching aspect. What are you doing as a coach that's going to better develop your kids tomorrow? And that's just whether it's reading a book, whether it's, again, finding something virtual that you can take a free course. So we really try to pass along that prepare for tomorrow in many different aspects, whether it's just on the strength and conditioning side, whether it's like, okay, you're at practice today, what are you going to do tomorrow to prepare yourself for the next day? Is that extra T work? Is that extra throwing? Is that extra infield work? But on the coaching aspect, I think it's really just, being involved, like I said, investing your time, what little time you might have, but just taking that initiative to try to, just find that extra time to research something, preparing yourself for tomorrow, doing that practice plan ahead of time. So, you had that busy, long day at work, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I got to go deal with like 10, 12-year-olds now, but you're prepared. You've done that. You've taken the time the day before to prepare. And just really being invested in it. And as a parent, I really say on the parent side of thing, it's just be invested in your kids. You want your kids to be successful, but it really takes the parent to be invested as well. Taking them outside of the park. I hate getting the question at 9, 10 years old. Some parents ask, how do I want to get my son faster or daughter faster? How can I do that at 10 or 11? I almost just want to say, take them to the park and just run and play. That's what I want you to do. Don't ask them. I don't want your money. I don't want you to pay me to put them through a speed program at 10 or 11. Be invested in their quality time. That is quality time for you as a parent with them. And I think through that, you're going to really see a change in your son or daughter just by being invested in what they're doing, and also, being there with them, going for that run, taking them to the park, doing those little things. And I think that is, like I said, it prepares them for that tomorrow.
I love that. That's all, folks. Mic drop. So more of a reason to be a qualified coach. I'm going to put the link to purchase the virtual conference convention and get qualified. Like, just keep learning. I love it. All right.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much, AJ.
Thank you.
All right. Hey, coach, did you hear the news? Yeah, coordinated coaching. It's out, it's running, it's literally moving. That's right. Coordinated coaching is a membership that you can become a member of at CallyVSoftball.com. That's Cally like Sally, but V as in Victor. Okay? Softball.com. Super simple to remember. But what the heck is coordinated coaching? Well, it's a membership for you as a coach. It's only $7 a month, and it's going to lock you into having monthly calls with coaches all around the world, to where we get to talk about the tough things, the emotional things, the mental things, sometimes even the physical things. Like, coach, what kind of insoles do you wear when you're on your feet 8+ hours a day? Little things like that are actually big things to us coaches, because when we feel better as a coach, we actually will think better and we perform better as a coach. Ooh, crazy. But here's the coolest thing. This isn't just for coaches of teams. This is for instructors instructors as well. So if you're a hitting instructor, a pitching instructor, a fielding instructor, I don't care. If you are a coach, this is your invite to the coordinated coaching membership located at callyvsoftball.com. That's Kally like Sally, but with a K, V as in Victor, softball.com. See you there. Hey, real quick, before I get off here, I just want to say thank you for being a part of the Kally V Softball Podcast Big Picture. When you follow this podcast, you're not only helping KVS reach as many athletes, parents, and as coaches as it can, you're also allowing KVS to bring in more guest speakers like AJ. So if you would like to be a part of the big picture here at Kally V Softball, LLC, I invite you to follow, like, share. This is huge for us here at KVS. And as always, thank you for listening and God bless.